The second thing we're going to be reviewing today is when to flip signs on inequalities. So some of you guys already have this in your notes, but I would still like you to take it down because this was a challenging unit that we went through. So today should be the 25th of February. We're going to be working on I can solve inequalities. So how do I know when to flip? So one of the first questions you're going to ask yourself, and this is like what we did on the bell range a couple weeks ago, is the variable on the left side? If it's yes, it is on the left side, then leave it alone. So as an example, if we have x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 3, is our variable on the left side. This is the left side of our equation. So yes, it is. So we're just going to leave this alone. We're going to solve it as usual. Take away 2 from both sides. X is greater than or equal to 1. And we're done. So those are the easiest ones. Just leave it alone. It's all fine how it is. If your answer to the question, is the variable on the left side, is no, then that means you need to flip the sides and the signs. So if we had an example like 3 is less than or equal to x minus 2, we have our two different sides. We have our left side, we have our right side. Is the variable on the left side? No, it is not. It is on the right side. So what do we need to do? We need to flip the sides and the signs. So that means we need to turn it into x minus 2. So that's on the left side. But then also flip our sign as greater than or equal to 3. After we've flipped our sides and our signs, we can solve as usual. X is greater than or equal to 5. So that one's dealing with is the variable on the left side. The other question we can ask ourselves is the second question. Are we multiplying or dividing by a negative? All right, so if we're multiplying or dividing by a negative, if our answer is no, then we're going to leave it alone. So if we had an example like x over 4 is greater than or equal to 2. If we have this, right now with x over 4 we have division, so the opposite would be to multiply, times 4 on both sides. Then we would get x is greater than or equal to 8. We didn't have to multiply or divide by a negative number, which means that we can just leave it alone. If we have an example on the other hand, like x over negative 4 is greater than or equal to 2. Well, now this one's a little bit different. This one, we have to multiply by that negative 4. So that means that after these cancel out, we're going to be left with x is greater than or equal to negative 8. But this is not true. What we need to have instead is x is less than or equal to negative 8, because that would be flipping the sign. Those are some examples of each of those. I'm going to go into a couple other examples that might be helpful for you to copy down in your notes. These ones are going to deal with 2 steps, so they might look a little bit more complicated. So if we had an example where we have x over 2 minus 4 is greater than or equal to 8, we're going to look at this. Our first question, is our variable on the left? Yes, it is on the left. If we split this in half, our variable is on the left side. So far we have nothing to do. If we are then continuing on, we add 4 to both sides. We get x over 2 is greater than or equal to 12. Now we can ask ourselves our second question. Are we multiplying or dividing by a negative? Well, we're dividing here by positive 2, so our answer is no. And if we go back up to our flow chart, if we are not multiplying or dividing by a negative, our answer is no, then we can just leave it alone. So this would be an example of something where we can leave the entire thing alone. Those cancel. X is greater than or equal to 24. Great. Easy ones. When you don't have to flip the sides, you don't have to flip the sign. Another example. If we have x over negative 2 minus 4 is greater than or equal to 8? Well, first we ask ourselves, is our variable on the left side? Yes, it is. Okay, so leave it alone. Add 4 to both sides. X over negative 2 is greater than or equal to 12. Then we can ask ourselves our second question. Are we going to have to multiply or divide by a negative number? Here we are dividing by a negative, which means we'll need to multiply by a negative. So that means we will have x is greater than or equal to negative 24. However, because we had to multiply by that negative number, we need to flip our sign. So x is actually less than or equal to negative 24. You can choose to either flip your sides and your signs at the beginning of your problem or at the end of your problem. Either way, you'll still end up with the same thing and nothing will be different. Let's do another example. Okay, so this one, if we have an example of negative 8 is greater than or equal to, let's see, negative 2x. So if we're looking at this one, we have our two different sides. Our first question, is our variable on the left side? No, it's on the right side. So because it's on the right side, we have to flip our sign and our sides. So that means our negative 2x is going to end up over here. We also have to flip our sign, so we want it to face the other way. And then we have our negative 8. Now, we can solve. Our second question asks us, are we going to multiply or divide by a negative number? We have a negative 2 here. We have to divide by a negative 2. So our answer to that one is yes, which tells us that that means we need to flip our signs. So we'll have x is less than or equal to 4, but since we have to flip the sign, we'll turn into x is greater than or equal to 4. So here's an example where you have to do both. So it kind of flips and then flips again. For the rest of the hour, you guys are going to be practicing graphing linear equations and then also working on solving inequalities where the sides flip. Again, this is because tomorrow we will be starting on graphing inequalities on an entire coordinate plane. So you're going to need to know how to graph a line and you're going to have to know when to flip the sign. Those are two very important things before we start in on our thing tomorrow. All right. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow.